I want you to look at that lyric. I am an instrument, and thank you, Robin, for that lyric. I am an instrument of my peace. I am an instrument of my love. Peace only comes through you. Peace isn't something out there. Peace is something in here. Kind of like what Sherry's quote was for our meditation this morning. What was it Rumi said? Wisdom, I was wise when, what was it? I was wise, no. Yesterday I was wise, and yesterday I was clever, and so I tried to change the world. Today I am wise, and I'm changing myself. Yeah. So when I left here, I left you all with a question. Do you remember what that question was? Clearly you've done a lot of work on it. Okay. So when I left here, I left you with a question, which is, who are we? Oh, yeah. It's always good for a teacher and a speaker to know how much impact they've had on their congregation. Yeah. So I left with the question, who are we as a community? Who is the Global Truth Center? Who are we? The reason why I left you with that question was because I wanted to know. You know, I had 20, what have I decided? I've been a minister for 26, I don't know, 22 years, whatever. I've had all those years, and in the beginning I knew I was a teacher of Ernest Holmes. I was a religious science minister. I knew who I was. I had so much gumption and so much go-get, and I just got out there and taught Ernest Holmes. And then things started to shift. And really studying Ernest Holmes, when I got to the end of his writings, his later writings, I was like, oh, crap. He's telling me, no, don't teach that. Teach whatever comes after me. I mean, that's how he felt. He was like, if you're still teaching my 1927 book in 50 years, and by the way, it's almost 100 years later, then you missed the point of the book. So I had a journey, a real journey to, who is the Global Truth Center? What is the Global Truth Center? What is my place at the Global Truth Center? And more importantly, what is my place in the world? And I was going to do all of that in 2 months. Right? So, and I gave you this quote at the top. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. So I gave you that quote on the last day I left. Who looks outside dreams. I've done a lot of dreaming. And I've done a lot of plans. How many of you have had your 5-year plans, your 10-year plans, your 20-year plans, and you have to keep redoing them because the plans always change? I don't do that anymore. I don't have a 5-year plan. I don't have a 10-year plan. I don't have a plan for my retirement. I don't have any of that. Much like you said, if I go forward, I'm in hell. If I go sideways, I'm in hell. It's all hell until I get tapped in, until I really get tapped in. So I need to look inside. I need to look inside and find out. So for the past 2 months, I've been doing both of those things. I started my sabbatical by jumping into producing our musical. How many of you got to see it? I'm so glad. Thank you for your support and for being there. But can I tell you, I was so excited. I was like, I'm going to go direct a musical again that I wrote. It's so much fun, and I have an amazing cast. When I started the rehearsals, I was like, why did I think I wanted to do this? Kind of like when I wrote my one-man show, Sissy Boy, and I had to be in Connie Milner's wedding dress at the top of the show, because the show opened with me in a wedding dress, sitting center stage, and a little spotlight hit me, and I was a little sissy boy hiding in a closet in a wedding dress, his mother's wedding dress. That's how the play opened. Don't you all wish you saw it now? Yeah. And I can still fit into that wedding dress. Anyway, every night I went to put that wedding dress on, I cursed myself for even thinking I wanted to do this. And I've had that experience as an actor, where I'm backstage just going, why, God, why did I think I wanted to do this? Because the lights are out, the orchestra's playing, and you're like, you gotta start. And then once I start, I love it. And then it's over, and everybody's telling you how good you were, because they don't tell you when you're bad. Everybody's telling you how good you were, and you're feeling like, I love this. And then time goes by, you go to sleep, you wake up the next day, you get back to the theater, and you're like, oy, That wedding dress, I got to do it again. Well, that's how bells felt when I started. I was like, okay. And then I was also like, can I still do this? I haven't done this in about 8 years. Can I still do this? And I ended up having a great time, an amazing time. But you know what I noticed in that particular first 2-3 weeks of my sabbatical? I wasn't as competitive with myself anymore. This teaching has taught me so much. I was like, I'm just going to show them what I got. And that's got to be enough, because God just does what God does, and it's enough. Some will like it, some won't. I never had that attitude before. Before it was like, this has to be the perfect, best Broadway show ever written, and everyone must tell me that. Luckily, they did, and it was okay. No, they didn't. I got lots of notes. But I had a different perspective. And then I went right from there. We finished that, and I flew right to Chicago, where Kevin was presenting and producing and starring in his musical, 44, the unofficial story of Barack Obama as told through the hazy recollection of Joe Biden. It's really a funny, hysterical musical written by a Saturday Night Live writer. It's just amazing. It's not really a Republican or Democratic show. It goes all across the board. It was great. But I went to Chicago, and I became an usher. I was helping. So I'm just handing out programs as people are coming in, and I'm sitting there going, why am I here? What is my purpose? You know, who am I? It was a little schizophrenic going from Bells Are Swinging to 44. Then we get home from 44, which, by the way, was a huge success, and watching people react to this show was fascinating. I almost saw every performance. Usually I could just hand out programs and go back and watch TV or something. I stayed and I watched every performance. It was that fulfilling. After that, we went to Yellowstone National Park. You've already heard what a stamp collector I am now. I'm not. I just enjoy watching him do it now. But it was amazing going through all of those parks. But I still had the question. I was still asking myself the question constantly, who am I? And who is this? What is this thing called ministry? And do I want to do it anymore? Knowing I had to end my sabbatical at the Big Sky Retreat. Now, the different thing about the Big Sky Retreat is usually when you give a keynote talk, you usually give like an hour, maybe keynote talk. You're the keynote speaker. You speak. At the Big Sky Retreat, you kind of are the retreat. You give the keynote opening two-hour lecture. The next day, you go through a bunch of things, and then you sit on a panel where everybody talks to you for 2 hours. And then the next day, you give your next 2-hour lecture, right? So it was something I hadn't done before that way. In a Silomar, you just give a 20-minute talk, and they time you. You go to 21 minutes, you're off the stage. This was more like, it was just, and so I was at the end of my sabbatical, so I was like, I haven't spoken in like 7 weeks. Can I still do it? As if I'd be out of words. And then Dr. Liza, was also a speaker at the conference. And the day she spoke, there were 3 speakers, each giving 20-minute talks. And the first person got up and gave a very solid talk. The second person got up and was amazing. And I was sitting there and I was like, Liza's going to have to follow amazing, yet she's phenomenal. But I had a moment. I was like, because the girl was so great before her, just blew. I just thought she was amazing. Young, 32-year-old, she was great. And then Liza got up and blew the room apart. Just blew the room apart. So much so, now remember, I'd already given a 2-hour lecture and a panel, and this guy comes up to me and goes, she's your student, right? I said, well, now she's my colleague. He said, no, now she's your equal. And I said, let's not get this too far. But what that moment did for me was really showed me that the student has become the teacher. In so many cases, Tiffany, Eric, Karen, all of my students have become the teacher. And that some of the, Dr. Lori, who was there as well, I used to feel like I had to do everything. And one of the reasons why I was asking that question, who are we and who am I in this thing called the Global Truth Center, was, do I want to come back and do everything I've been doing for the last 22 years the way I've been doing it, which, by the way, is called insanity. To do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. Because I want a different result. I really do. What I was going to call this talk today, What Sabbatical? Did you get that yet? As though I never took one. It's like I came back exhausted. I came back like, someone said at the pool party yesterday, you look so rested. I went, really? I said, then I am a better actor than I know. Yeah. Instead, what I'd like to do is answer the question of who are we? Because I have an answer now. A very profound answer. So this was the name of the conference at Big Sky, the bottom, A Journey to Love. And this was my first slide in my first presentation that I gave, called The Journey Begins. And it actually did for me. I think the first 2 months, the first 3/4 of my sabbatical was about letting everything go. Jumping into a musical, jumping into a second musical, jumping into visitor centers all throughout Yellowstone Park, and then the journey begins. That last 5 days at Big Sky, of me being able to really ask myself a big question that I asked you all to think about, which is, who am I? Who are we? Who are we? Who is this? What is this? And what is this? Why do we come? Why do we show up on a Sunday and come sit and watch people sing and somebody talk? What does it do for us? Is it doing something for us? Is it important? Is it necessary? Does it contribute? I mean, all of these questions were in my mind. So I have a ministry that people call the I Am God ministry. Not an easy ministry to have. I Am God is still not something that is easily digestible for the mass audiences. How many people in here are still digesting it and still working their way through it? Okay, so see, there's a handful. Really? There's a handful of you still working your way through it. But you know what? You know what I found out? So am I. I am still digesting and working my way through this from a position of wanting it to be so internal that I don't even think about it. It's not a topic anymore. I'm not there. It's still a topic. So, when I bring I Am God to conferences, which I do, it's usually very surprising for the congregation. But you know what I found this time? Because, most of them there were meeting me for the first time. I started with this, I Am God. I started with this. What is this thing called God? And I got to I Am God. And the room was like a sponge. Right, Liza? Just wanting to hear this, wanting to understand this. And it was so amazing. 2 hours went by so fast. I was worried when I got up there. I was like, 2 hours? Can I really be interesting for 2 hours? As if. But yes, I could. But I also didn't want to just get up and do stand-up. Right, Tiff? We got to add some spirituality to our stand-up routine. So I was funny, but I really stuck to my story, I Am God. And then I went to, what is spirituality? We don't call ourselves a church, Nick, thanks to Nick. Nick tortured me for the first couple of years here. Every time I said church, it was corrected. I don't say church anymore, except now when I'm telling you I don't say church anymore. No, we are a spiritual center. But what the hell is spirituality? Most people think spirituality is just some kind of liquid stuff that you use instead of God, because you don't want to say God, but you say spiritual, but you mean God. I don't. And I have 2 examples of that. These are the quotes I used. The quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to the material or physical things. That's what spiritual means, one of the meanings. Right, what you were saying. Not out here in the practical world of what's going on, but something inside of you. Something within you that just knows and knows that it knows and listens and adapts. Or the second one, which is a shift in priorities, allowing us to embrace our true selves in a more profound way. So one of the questions I had to ask myself was, what am I here for? Why are we here? Are we here to know more about ourselves? Well, yes. But I can go to LifeSpring, or what's that called? Landmark, and learn more about myself, and learn more about how to live in this world. Both programs, I think, very valuable. I can go to anything. I can go to Tony Robbins and learn how to work more, have better consciousness of money. I could go to, you know them all. But that's not what it's about. To embrace my true self in a more profound way. Where do I go to find me? Not just how do I live better in this world, but where do I go to really find me? I found me in a number of waterfalls, a number of streams, and a number of bison. So many bison. At the beginning of our trip, we were looking for bison. It was just like, come on, we got to find a bison. At the end of our trip, we were stampeded by a herd of bison. No, we really weren't stampeded, because I'll be called on that later. There were maybe a couple hundred bison. We were on a road, and there were like a couple hundred bison, and they had literally, to the right, to the left, and in front of us, stopped, would not let us go for the rest. We had to turn around and go all the way back to where we started. In fact, one bison, remember this one? That one bison, when our car got pretty close, just turned and looked right at the car, and we were like, shit, back up. Back up, we are not going through these bison. But you see them in their bison's eyes. At the Big Sky Retreat, I was at the end of the panel, everybody left, and I had to stay for some reason, so I had to walk back alone. So I'm walking through the Big Sky Retreat, Big Sky ski lodge, resort, and I got to a certain point, and this fox, I saw a fox. I was like, we haven't seen a fox yet. And this fox just comes walking and hopping down off of this little hill and walking towards me, and I was like, do foxes bite? Do foxes eat people? I was like, but I stopped. I was like, surely nothing's going to happen to me. And the fox just kind of walked by me over to where there were some tables to see if there was any food there. And I was like, what does a fox stand for? Ironically, it stands for wisdom in the animal world. And I was like, wow, okay. And I just watched it for a while, and I turned, and as I turned to walk back to our condo, the fox started following me. Then I asked that question again, do foxes bite? And if he didn't find food, how tasty do these calves look? I had shorts on. So the fox kind of followed me, and then I finally just waited before I went into my place and just stopped. And it just kind of did this and then walked off into the distance, which sometimes wisdom does for me too. It follows me along, it feels like it's me, and then in an instant, it goes off into the distance. And I'm back in the Newtonian world of form and facts and getting my wisdom from what's going on instead of what is. So that was towards the end of my trip at Big Sky. So the title of my talk today is A New Perspective. Gloria Savage did this slide, fabulous picture. It is exactly how I feel right now. I feel like I am out on a limb with everything I know, and I'm looking down at this abyss of, I'd say emptiness, but what I want to say is the quantum field of infinite wisdom. And all the universe is asking me to do is stop looking and jump. Stop trying to decide, can I do this? What do I want to do? How will I do this? And looking in all directions, just frickin' jump. Because what you're looking at, you are. And I got there and I was like, okay, so what am I? Who am I? Well, it was very simple. I'm the quantum field. That's who we are. The conference name was A Journey to Love, but love is God, and God is the quantum field. God is energy. It's all energy. That's it. It's the most simple understanding of God, that it's this creative energy of all things, the fox, the bison, the streams, the waterfalls, the visitor centers. It's all God, all of it. So I started talking about the quantum field, and I started understanding the quantum field, because what is the quantum field in your point of view? The most important part for you to know about this? The quantum field is your mind. That's all it is. Everything takes place in your mind. Nothing is real. Nothing is real other than what's real to you. I mean, just think about that for a minute. You're sitting here. Corrine has her idea and vision of what's going on right now. Doug has his. They may not be the same. Both of them are real to them. But what's really going on? We are sitting in this room filled with energy. Particles in space, commingling, bouncing off of each other. Creativity everywhere. Ideas everywhere. For each one of us to decide what to do with. And none of us will do it the same way. And that is a great, great, great thing. So, I came back with a new perspective. And that perspective was, I don't know. That's my perspective. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know what's next. I don't know, blah, blah, blah. I'm not interested in the 20 marketing tips to make this church bigger. I'm not. I'm interested in this, my new class, Quantum Living. Because it's time to start teaching the quantum message. Not just the science of mind, but quantum living. So I came back, Thor and I met. I said, I'm going to teach a 10-week class on quantum living, meaning I'm going to take the basics of the quantum metaphysical world and break it down each week for us to use in the way we live our lives. So all of you should be in that class. Because this is a brand new, I'm writing it from scratch, from I don't know to I think I get it. That's my new tagline. From I don't know to I think I get it in 10 weeks. That's it. Quantum Living 101. But that's what I came back knowing. Here's what I want to do. And the question was, what is the Global Truth Center? You know what? Do you remember when you used to go to church? Remember when you used to go to church when you were little? How many of you went to church when you were little? Wait, why did you go to church? Probably because your parents took you to church, right? I don't want to be in church. I'm so glad you brought your son to church today. I don't want to have people in church because they think they have to go to church to live a moral life. I don't want people to go to church because they think they have to go to church to pray to God or to get spiritual. You are spiritual. You are God. So this idea of this spiritual center, because that was church back then, a spiritual center, it can't just be about showing up on a Sunday and in fellowship and having a good time and then having 7 more days before we do it again. That's not what I want to be about. That's not the minister I want to be. It's not the minister I am. I want to teach. I want to be a teacher. I love teaching this stuff. I love the students, and then the students teach me. I love teaching. So I came back and I told Thor, I said, first of all, it's a 10-week class, not an 8-week class. We don't need 4 classes. We need 3. We redid everything for this upcoming year. I want us to find a way to evolve, to grow, to expand. Doug Draper asked a question at the panel, which literally turned the whole room upside down. And I'm sitting there going, here it comes. He's asked this question before, and I'm equipped to not know the answer. But some people on the panel had a hard time with the question. You know, the kind of, was a little insulting in the beginning about the question itself. And the question was, does God evolve? Remember that, Scott, in the last advanced consciousness class? Does God evolve? Well, we've been teaching for years. God is perfect, whole, and complete. cannot evolve, needs not evolve, has every answer. Everything is already right there. We're just the lower level of this that hasn't gotten it yet. That was so old thought. New thought is, yes, God is evolving. The universe is evolving. The universe expands and grows. Science teaches us that. And if that's what God is, if that's what you are, if that's who I am, Jesus knew that we were always evolving, we were always growing, we were always being the more when we let ourselves. That's what the Global Truth Center is. And let me tell you, I'm out there in the world. I know what other centers and I know what other churches are doing, and I know what they are teaching. And it is time for the Global Truth Center to really be a North Star for what the quantum metaphysical world is about. I appreciate that. And the amazing thing is, it's not just me. We have the most incredible ministers at this center and in Palm Springs, the most incredible teachers. We all are on the same page of where we're going. That's who you are as the Global Truth Center. I really do think every seat in this place should be filled, and there should be like waiting room to get in, because people want what we have. But you know what we got to do first? Tell them what we have. Show them. And that means living this stuff. Quantum living 101. Not just knowing what it is, but living it from the inside out. So, here's how I closed my big sky. The last three things I asked on that first day. It was this. Who am I? Who are you? Just for you to answer for yourself. Who are you? That's one. The second one was, who was I? You all started like that. He looks a little troubled. But we all started this way. We came in as fully orbed, realized. We always think the child's not fully orbed and realized, but guess what? You all took care of that baby. Think about it. That baby got everything it needed in parts of the world. In other parts of the world, the evolution continues. But for us, we know what to do when a baby arrives. So it's who am I right now? Who was I? And it's not about getting back to that. I don't think we need to get back to my innocence. It's not about that. But it's getting back to the center. And then the last one, which is most important, what am I willing to become? That's my last question. And that was the question I came with this morning. Who am I willing to become to lead the Global Truth Center? What am I willing to do to lead the Global Truth Center? And for each one of you, who are you willing to become by being a part of something that has you out on a ledge, asking you to jump, to dive in? Because that's what I'm doing. That's the rebirthing that came through me on this whole trip. Global Truth Center is poised to lead the way in a brand new understanding of science of mind. We've been playing with it and edging into it over the last 5 to 10 years. Well, I still want to play, I still want to have fun, but I'm ready to jump. Are you ready to join me? Yes. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.